Hello guys and welcome, it is that SRB2 dude here today bringing you yet another Splatoon 3 video. Now in today's video guys, I am going to be teaching you guys how to play Splat Zones in Splatoon 3. While Turf War's objective is relatively self-explanatory, especially how the way Nintendo has marketed this game, the ranked modes aren't exactly well explained unless you've watched the Nintendo Directs or have read the obscurely placed tutorial that's been put in the test range. So in this video I'm going to simply teach you guys how to play Splat Zones. And this video is of course great for any new players coming into Splatoon 3 and any existing players that want to understand the structure better for Splat Zones. So without any more wasted time, let's get into it. Now to put it simply, Splat Zones is basically Turf War, but it's in a very controlled section of the map. The main goal of this game type is that there's going to be a zone, usually in the middle of the map, that you have to paint. You can see the clearly shown in this pink outline here. This is exactly what you're aiming to paint over. All you have to do is get some ink on it. As you can see, as you paint over the HUD, there'll be a bar that gets filled with your ink. You want to make sure that this is fully filled. Once you fill it, the timer will start going down. When the timer reaches 0, it means that you have won. The aim of this is that you want the timer to be as low as possible in comparison to the other team. So in every single game, you'll also have the other team fighting for the zone as well. Now let's just say that you are in control for a good bit and the other team gets control of the zone. What will happen is, if the other team paints half of the zone, your timer will stop. This would mean that the zone is in neutral. If the other team fully paints the zone, then their timer will start going down. What will happen after that is that you'll be applied a penalty. This means if you get control of the Splat Zone again, the penalty timer will be reduced first before your main timer gets reduced. Just so you know as well, the more points you get down on your main timer, the more penalty points will be applied when the other team controls the zone. And that is the general rules of Splat Zones. Just so you understand, some maps might also have 2 zones. Just like this map known as Undertow Spillway. As you can see from the middle of the map, there are actually 2 zones on each side. What this means, you have to paint both of them in order to reduce your timer. As you can see, once I paint the second zone here, now we're in control. How contesting works in 2 zone maps is that you have to paint at least half of one zone. Once you've got control of one zone, then you can work towards getting the other one. Once you paint the other zone, then you'll be in control. And that's it. You now know how to play Splat Zones. It's basically King of the Hill, except you're using a bunch of ink. Now there's a couple of do's and don'ts that I want to explain so you can further understand how you should be playing Splat Zones. Don't try and be the hero and run into 4 people trying to get kills or expecting yourself to get kills. Because rushing in like this, especially alone, like a madman, will definitely not win you the game type. What you are looking to do in Splat Zones is to overwhelm the other team with your ink output. It's a fairly patient game type, so you may have to stall a little bit, because ideally what you are looking for is to pick apart the other team using your ink to displace individuals so that along with your team you can actually obtain a kill. This is most commonly done by using different special weapons after they have been charged up from all the stalling you have done. There are many different kinds of specials that apply pressure and make players move, like the Killer Whale 5.1, Tenta Missiles, Ink Storm, etc. If yourself or someone on your team uses one of those kinds of specials, you can link it with a more aggressive special that can capitalize on the enemy's displacement. These aggressive specials could consist of Trizooka or Crab Tank or even Booya Bomb. Of course, these specials can get their own picks too if used individually, but linking up specials together in this way can apply a lot of pressure so that you'll be easily able to obtain the zone. It's also why it's really important to remain grouped up, because your team will be always able to help you if an enemy player gets ungrouped from their team, so you can take advantage of them. Just try to do your best at spacing out the enemy team, because once you're able to single out your opponents and overwhelm them with ink, it makes general team fighting much easier. Now I'm going to give you guys a few weapon recommendations, because I believe these weapons perform pretty well within Splat Zones. The 52 gal is a short to mid-range weapon. It actually paints fairly well when strafing back and forth. As you can see, this layer of ink is very thick, which is practically perfect for when you're wanting to play Splat Zones. Now, it is a very high damaging weapon as it only requires 2 shots for you to actually obtain a kill, which is great, but it's not the only reason for why you would want to use it in Splat Zones. Of course, being able to take out your opponents fairly quickly is extremely great. and the 52 gal does an amazing job at this. But one thing I feel the 52 gal does really well, just as a Slayer weapon if you're using it for Splat Zones, and I think it's mainly because it has a splash wall. Of course, being able to protect yourself is really great, or of course your teammates too. When you put your splash wall down, the enemy team cannot shoot through this. So there's a couple of great things you can do with this. You can of course frontline for your team. You put the wall down and you can basically shoot behind the wall and frontline, keeping your team safe. Another thing I feel like that doesn't get talked about a lot, especially the splash wall, is throwing the splash wall in front of the zone so that your enemies cannot paint the zone. It's a great way of stalling the target so that the enemy team can't paint the zone as efficiently. Another great thing about the 52 gal is its special. It has the Killer Whale 5.1. What this special does is that it locates enemies through walls. Not only that, it will actually force your targets to actually always move. So remember when I told you guys about making sure that your enemies get displaced? This special is basically perfect for that. Another great weapon for Splat Zones is the Slushy Machine. Now this weapon doesn't paint probably as well as the 52 gal. To be honest, it actually paints fairly decently, but as you can see, there's basically a gap between every slush once you're strafing. Also, weirdly enough, this looks like the jellyfish from SpongeBob. However, what makes this weapon so good is the main weapon itself is very consistent, especially when it comes to hitting your targets from longer ranges, and also, of course, you not having to be as accurate to actually hit the target. So when it actually comes to like throwing ink onto the zone or trying to contest, or anybody who tries to approach, this weapon basically stops all of that and prevents enemies trying to approach, because as they're approaching, it's going to be very hard for them to not get hit by your sloshes. Another great thing is its sub-weapon. It has the Fizzy Bomb, which personally to me, it's probably one of the best painting bombs that is in the game currently. You basically shake it up to level 3, and then you can just throw it along the zone. Not only that it applies huge damage, but it puts down a lot of paint for just being one bomb. You can of course throw it extremely far too, so you don't have to be so close to actually paint the zone with even your main weapon. You can do it fairly safely, but also on top of that, you have this special, the Booya Bomb. Once you charge this up pressing the Booya button, you throw this massive explosion that will also paint the floor extremely well, and usually will be able to paint a zone by itself, but also anybody within this explosion is instantly dead. It applies so much pressure to the zone and displaces any nearby targets that are anywhere around this paint radius, which as you can see is friggin' huge. With the spam of Fizzy Bombs that you throw with this weapon, you'll be able to charge Booya Bombs pretty dang easily, and considering you want to be fairly patient with this particular game type, just chucking a bunch of Fizzy Bombs, especially even at your opponents or on the zone, should be charging up your Booya Bombs very quickly. It's almost like you don't even have to get close to anybody with this weapon to do a lot of impact. The last weapon is the Splashomatic. It's a very high fire rate weapon that paints amazingly well. You do have to be extremely accurate with it though, because it doesn't have any weapon spread. But I recommend it because of course, it's in general just a really consistent weapon and very high fire rating weapon. It's a close range weapon too. It may have a little less range in comparison to the 52 gal, but it's a great weapon to use if people do get close to you, or especially if your team do a great team push, you can kind of use that to just go in and frag up close if you choose. And what assists this weapon really well is the Burst Bomb. It's basically a bomb you can throw straight away and it will impact ink straight away. Weapons that have burst bombs are really great for Splat Zones because you can basically just chuck the burst bomb on the zone and it's a quick way to be able to just get a little bit of paint on it. You do of course have Crab Tank as the special with this weapon. It's a great special weapon to be able to reach things from afar, and it's also a great special to be able to capitalize on displacement specials that are being used by your team. All in all, this weapon is a pretty good pick for it as well. These are just a few beginning choices I feel work really well for Splat Zones. I believe weapons that have a solid painted power are truly the best picks for this mode, because it allows you to always be able to contest the zone in some sort of way. Doesn't mean you can't use weapons like the blasters, rollers, or charges. In fact, you definitely can use those kinds of weapons. But you will need to be mindful that these types of weapons are probably not going to be focused on painting most of the time. they're probably going to be more focused on actually getting picks themselves, because they won't be able to have the same painting power as the ones I suggested to be able to contest the zone as well as them. If the rest of your team is able to hold the painting power side and you want to go ahead and use a roller or a blaster, then by all means do that. But again, of course, just be mindful of it. Splat Zones will be fun as long as you know what you're doing. So hopefully these tips helped you guys to understand the game type a little more. An advanced guide will later come in the future, which will go over some really in-depth situations to be aware of when you're playing Splat Zones. For now, take it slow and learn the game type and different things you may encounter. And then most importantly, good luck and have fun. So yes guys, this is basically my basic guide on how you play Splat Zones in Splatoon 3. I will also be doing a basic guide for Tower Control, Rainmaker, and Clan Blitz. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you wish to learn more about these game types and how to play them. With all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment below to tell me if it actually helped you as well. I'd be very interested hearing what you guys have to say. Share this video to anyone if you feel like they are struggling in this mode. And yeah guys, of course, make sure to follow my Twitch and Twitter, both in the description below. Do it for both if you're feeling generous. Make sure to hit the bell notification button next to the subscription button to get notified whenever I upload a video. Also, consider joining my public Discord channel. You can of course talk to other Splatoon 3 people, play with other Splatoon 3 people in ranked, and it's also the greatest place to be notified whenever I go live for a Twitch stream. With all that being said guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe, we're close to 100k, and yeah, that's all I gotta say. I shall see you guys in a future video.